Hello, everybody. I'm Jared Hager here with the America East office, and we're here today to preview the A Playoffs title game coming up on Saturday morning at 11 a.m. between the Albany Great Danes and the Stony Brook Seawolves. The game will be on ESPN2, and we're really happy to have with us today a couple of guys that know the league better than anybody else. First, we have Ryan Restivo from Big Apple Buckets. Thanks, Ryan, for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
And we have Sam Perkins from One Bid Wonders. Thanks, Sam, for being on today.
Hey, thanks, Jared. I mean, this is Ryan's world. I'm just living in it right now.
All right, we're off to a great start. So we're going to go through a bunch of topics today. These guys are going to give us their opinions, and we're going to end with their predictions on the championship game. So I guess we'll start with you, Sam, and we're going to start talking about the regular season. And if you could just give us an overall impression of what this regular season was like in the America East.
You know, it was a very fun season for me. It was fun for some different reasons. I mean, obviously the bottom of the league, it was really rough. You had Maine, which was a complete rebuild, UMBC, which was a skeleton crew, and Binghamton, a complete rebuild maybe when they shouldn't have been. But it was almost fun for me to watch. I thought you saw some really great coaching performances at the bottom of the league. I thought the job Aki Thomas did was fantastic with a terrible hand that he was dealt at UMBC. The fact that they played so hard all the way until the last game when they really on paper had no business being in any game was really fun. Seeing Bob Walsh get in there and seeing him really unhappy with the state of Maine basketball and really passionate about getting them better. When that was a situation that very easily a coach could have walked in and gone, hey, these aren't my guys, the talent's not here, I'm playing with house money, and I'm not going to be upset about anything. I mean, he wanted those guys to be better. Tommy Dempsey, I think you saw a lot of fight at the end of the season, which was really, really encouraging for a Binghamton team that's really been down. And then at the top of the conference, obviously, the job that Will Brown did dealing with some really tough circumstances. The job that John Becker did with a very young team, and then you had the situation with Josh Spidell, and seeing UNH, the best UNH team, as far as a competitive standpoint that I've ever seen, and record-wise, the tying for the best record in school history was really fun to watch as well.
Yeah, I think that's some great impressions right there. You hit on a lot of topics, and we'll turn it over to Ryan and see what he has to say.
Yeah, you hit on about 90% of the topics there. But one of the things that does point, I feel is very important, where 18 of the 72 conference games were decided by 4 points or fewer or had overtime. That's 25% of the games. That's good for 9th out of the 31 conferences in the country. So there were a lot of close games, even through the top teams playing the top teams and the bottom teams playing the bottom teams. But I do feel like, I agree with Sam, a lot about, Binghamton's rebuild. They had changed it a little bit. But, now I feel like, using the eye test, they were playing some of their best basketball towards the end of the year. I was at the quarterfinal against Stony Brook. They had them on the ropes practically the entire game. They were uncomfortable playing this style of basketball that Binghamton has. And I think Tommy Dempsey does have, he's been building and, maybe should have taken an extra step this year. But I feel like that step is coming. The talent is going to get there, and they're going to mature, and they're going to be able to pull that off. But I also, I know you pointed out the Vermont, the way that they've battled through adversity. I think, talent-wise, I think this is a team probably picked for 4th in the league at the beginning of the year.
Yep.
But it really does seem like this talent group is going to be really special. And, you do feel for everything that's happened for Josh. Josh Spidell, who you mentioned before. But, the talent already there is also still going to be a special mix. And I feel like, they're probably going to be one of the surprise. They were the surprise team this year, and they're probably going to be one of the favorites when we look at this next year.
Yeah, one other thing that I would just add about Binghamton is I don't think that there is a more fun, when you ask me for the highlights, Romello Walker, just interview that kid. Whoever you are, talk to him if you're on campus. You're not going to find a more out there, fun person to talk to at all, period. The guy, he's in the Glee Club. He has a 40-inch vertical leap. He's really passionate about, he wants to be a firefighter when he graduates, and he's majoring in theater because he told me, hey, I'm going to be a firefighter, so I should just major in whatever I love doing while I'm in college. So just as an aside, tremendously fun person to talk to when we're talking about Binghamton.
And also really skilled, he's really skilled with the basketball as well. So, it does help at the same time. But I do feel like, him and Willie, and once they get the healthy guys, it seemed like they were just, two guys short. If they had those two guys, Nick Madre and Dusan Perovic, who both got hurt, if they had either of those two guys, I do feel like they would have had a lot better year. Even though they rolled and played pretty well towards the end of the season.
Who's the biggest surprise team of the year? I think that a lot of people might point to UNH, but Ryan, we can start with you on this one. What was your biggest surprise of the year?
He tossed it right to me. I think it's UNH. It's a team that won 9 games 2 years ago, 6 games the last season. They really took that step forward that I think Bill Harrian's been looking for. And Tanner Leicester, he knew he was going to be a very good player in this league, and he came in and showed it. And won Rookie of the Year. It's just unfortunate that he hurt his ankle the week of the tournament, and wasn't able to play in either tournament game, because they really could have had a legitimate chance to beat University of Albany on Sunday, because they also had him on the ropes. But Bill Harrian talked to me after. He's like, we were just one guy short. If they had Tanner in that game, they wouldn't have had to change. They wouldn't have to make some subs that they did in the middle of the game when they couldn't sustain a run and they couldn't score for 4 minutes. They could have been able to get over that hump and to get to 20 wins. But again, it's we had mentioned it already. 19 wins is tying the school record, and they're going to have a chance to beat the record when they play in the CIT.
Yeah, I would agree with Ryan that on the one hand, I'll come with a different opinion just to be contrarian, but the job that UNH did was fantastic, and when you talk about Harrian, let's be honest, he's open about he's only got 1 more year left on his contract, and he said, hey, I know the reality of it. He's a lifer in basketball. He doesn't shy away from that. That is an ominous situation to be in, and to be with your back against the wall and do the job that he did and reinvent the offense was fantastic. And you're right, they were one guy away, and that one guy is the guy who can fill it up for them. And so they maybe they don't have that 4-minute scoring drought. Maybe they're playing for their first ever championship. The other big surprise to me was UMass Lowell, for the reason that it's hard to say, oh, they're a surprise 2 years in a row. I think at the end of last year, knowing what we did about how talented Akeem Williams and how talented Antonio Bivens actually were once we saw them play, those were legit D1 talents. We'd say, hey, the shape the league was in last year, when you have 2 seniors like that have played together for 4 years, we're not as surprised by the finish last year. But this year, when you graduate those guys, you graduate almost 40 points a game in scoring. I was like 30, I don't have the number in front of me. 9 new faces, and for Lowell to compete the way they did, Jihad Thomas to have been the way he was. This guy's the only one who picked him preseason as an all-rookie selection, by the way. Those 6'2" power forwards are the guys you have to watch out for. But Jihad Thomas goes down, and they keep finding ways to win even without him, and he was their entire offense. The job that Pat Duquette did at Lowell, I would really put up there with any in the league this year, considering the number of new faces, considering really the lack of game-ready talent, at least on their roster, especially once Jihad Thomas went down. I think he did a great job.
And you add to the fact that they did get the resume building win. They got an Atlantic 10 win over Fordham. It is Fordham, the 13th ranked team in the Atlantic 10. But at the same time, that's something you can really add to your resume at this point. 2 seasons in, you got to feel like UMass Lowell, they have the 4-year build to getting fully into the membership. So they're right on track. I feel like Pat Duquette. I agree completely with you. He's done a great job, and if you talk to him before the year each time, he's not as optimistic as it probably seems in the beginning of the year. They're playing a lot of freshmen. They sat 2 guys as freshmen. So I do think they're on track. I think they're on track to do a lot of special things, and when they get to that 5th year, when they're eligible, that's going to be a time when you're really going to have to look out for them.
Sam, we'll start with you on this one. What are your thoughts? First year of a new format change. What are your thoughts on how the tournament went?
I get for the league that this is probably the right decision. So I won't argue that point, because at this level, it's all about revenue. It's all about I get the realities of it, and certainly the attendance speaks for itself in the opening rounds. For me, and it's influenced by personal connection to it, but I loved everything that the centralized tournament was about. When you get anywhere from 8 to 10, depending on how many teams are in it at that time, teams in one location in one weekend, just the things that I've seen over the years at the tournament. Most of the kids in this league are never going to play in the NCAA tournament. That's just the reality. When you get a dynasty like Vermont in the early 2000s, you get a couple years with Albany, 2 separate times. you'll have an entire class that never has a chance at the NCAAs because of how dominant one team is for a stretch. And the tournament really is that's their NCAA tournament. That's their moment. I talked to guys. I was talking to Bobby Santiago, who's a Stony Brook grad. He graduated in '07. And he talks about that the tournaments for his 4 years, his 5 years, he redshirted 1 year, was the best experience of his entire career. When he was at Stony Brook, they never had a chance. They were a 4, 5, 6 win team. But they knocked off BU in '04 when BU went 17-1 in conference play, and ESPN was projecting them as an 11 seed, and that was that Stony Brook team's moment. It was the only moment they got. You also see that there are a lot of friendships around the league between the players, and it means something for all of them to be in the same place when some of their careers comes to an end. It sounds corny, but it is true. So I really miss the tournament for those reasons. I think it's very special for the players. It was very special for me to be a part of it. But I get the reasons why. I can't fault the league for why they've done it.
I mean, you get that tournament. It's half. I was in Albany this weekend. You could see it. You get the kind of half convention style. In one part, the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference had their tournament in the Times Union Center all weekend long, and we drove out to SEFCU to see Albany take UNH first before driving back to see the first semifinal of the MAC. And the atmosphere, you could say, was probably equal. But I understand your point in terms of you get the kind of convention feel, you get that style when the house lights go down and they play the same song, and now it gets stuck on my head all week. And but I feel like the way the league did it is you want to incentivize the best team getting in. There's two options. You can either incentivize the best team to ensure that they're going to get the best chance to represent you in the NCAA tournament and get you a win and earn you more units so you can extend them over the 6 years, or you incentivize your worst teams to get in so that they can get into the play-in round, win a game, and then you get that same unit. So it really goes either way. And I feel like the league has went towards the best team side instead of going the worst team side.
This is a topic that will probably continue to be debated since we've seen both formats now, and we know we'll be with this same format for at least another year here. So.
But between the old fogies like myself and the young guns like Ryan, you're going to have that kind of a debate between the generations in this league of who wants the old style and who likes the new style.
Absolutely.
The old guys always lose in these, so I'm accepting the changing times.
We saw a couple great semifinals over the weekend. What was the best game of the playoffs so far? And we'll go to Ryan first.
Well, I saw UNH against Albany, so I thought it was, one of the better games. We were also watching the Vermont and Stony Brook semifinal, when we reached down, and in halftime they put the game on the scoreboard so you can watch what it was, the key parts of the second half when Stony Brook was making their run. So not a lot of people were out of their seats to watch that either, and the shocking plays that were late, Cam Ward missing the pass and really turning it over. That was really the costly play there for Vermont. But I felt like, I'll go with the game I was at because, UNH battled. I mean, they had Albany for a little while, but, Albany came back. They played great defense for 4 minutes, holding them without a point, and that's when they really made that charge. And, Albany looks really good. That's sort of the bottom line is, they really attacked it off the dribble, and, they are legit, the best team in this league. And I feel like, they probably got one of UNH's best punches, and they had all year. The other two meetings determined by less than a possession, and they've been able to manage and survive.
Yeah, I would say, I guess this is a qualifier. Biggest game of the year of the tournament, I would say Stony Brook coming back against Vermont. I think for the way that team, and maybe there's no truth to it, but you start to get that kind of monkey on your back when can't win the big one, that sort of reputation. And Stony Brook has never been a team in the America East tournament that when they've fallen behind has really had that ability to counterpunch. And the fact that they could counterpunch, take the lead after being down 16, and then withstand another. So they basically counterpunched and fought back twice in that to hang on for the win. I think that's huge confidence-wise for them. I think the best game, I would go with UNH Hartford, went overtime, wacky ending. But just the fact that you had so many seniors on that Hartford team, that were great kids and that played as hard as they possibly could. Mark Nuakama, they've said it was a bone bruise all year long. I don't know what it is. The buzz around the league has been that it was something a lot worse. He went out the way every senior should go out. He left it all on the line. It's not the way he wanted his career to end, but it's one of those ways that, when everything kind of settles down, he gets some distance from it. Him and his team, his fellow seniors will know that there's nothing more they could have done, and that was pretty great for me to see from that Hartford team. And it was just a great win for UNH too, to get that America East playoff win, to get off the losing streak they'd been on since I believe 2009 or 2010 maybe.
That had to be the craziest ending,
Yeah.
The way that they got to overtime. We were I was at the Binghamton Stony Brook quarterfinal. We're watching New Hampshire Hartford to see what's going on, and you kind of see like the home run pass and it's over the back. When we watched it the first time, I'm like, yeah, I guess they're gonna call over the back. I didn't think the play design was very good.
Yeah.
Because you don't throw it 90 feet to try to get a post-up situation, and you go for the tie, but it works out in Hartford's favor, and they get to overtime. But I other than the wackiness of that kind of play, I still think I like the game that I saw because I saw it. But I do appreciate the fact that how well UNH kind of battled with Hartford, and Hartford, I guess you could say this season was kind of disappointing considering the expectations, that John Geller kind of expected from this group, a group of seniors that went to Australia, played really well down there, and kind of struggled to score.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the one other thing that I didn't say about that New Hampshire game is just, I talked about the Hartford seniors, but Matt Miller, coming, you lose all the momentum. You would think with that interesting foul call, I'll say, the 2 free throws to send it to overtime. And then, boom, right into overtime. The kid hits a huge 3. A great story of a kid that always wanted to play D1, didn't have the opportunity, transferred up, had to sit out a year. He's probably the only person in the country that didn't get that eligible immediately waiver that everyone else seems to be getting. He gets to D1. He tears his ACL, misses an entire year, and now he's looking at his first year of D1 ball is probably his last year because the NCAA is notoriously stingy with giving out 6 years. And I talked about the Hartford seniors didn't want to go home. He didn't want to go home either. He didn't want his career to come to an end. So I thought that was a great performance too, and a great story.
You guys touched on quarterfinal, semifinal games, and now we're heading into the championship, and we have a rematch of last year. 2 great rivals. What excites you about this championship game in particular?
The chance to disagree with Ryan and yell at him over Twitter. No. I mean, you have the 2 rivals. You have Albany, that's the team that has been there, done that. You have Stony Brook, that's the team that has all the brand new facilities, and they've got the fan base and the hype, but they haven't quite been there. I think there's animosity. I think there's some jealousy going both ways for different things that each program has. So it's a great rivalry for me. You've got some great storylines. Will Brown with a chance to move into number 1 all time for most NCAA tournament appearances from an America East coach. He's in some pretty select company already. Steve Peichel, who built Stony Brook, when he went in there, it was a disaster. They had scholarships taken away. They weren't graduating kids. They had no fans. I went there back during the early years when Peichel was there, and there were like 3 people in the seats, and for him to have gotten them kind of to the mountaintop, as they like to say, but not quite reached the summit yet. So I think there are some great storylines. Sam Rowley at the end of his career, he's a great kid. Versus Jameel Warney is the absolute star in the league. Does he get to the NCAAs this year so he's got a chance to go back, or does Rowley and Hooley kind of join the Sorrentine, Coppenrath, and Malik Rose, Jeff Myers, and Reggie Lewis, Andre LaFleur group of going to 3 NCAAs? So there's just a lot of great storylines, and I think there's a really good rivalry and a lot of dislike amongst, if not the programs, the fan bases at least of the 2 programs.
This matchup, this matchup's going to be a great game. I know talking to a lot of the coaches this summer, they mentioned, when you're talking about the top league teams in this league, I know one of them told me specifically, I think it's going to come down to Stony Brook and Albany, and it really has. And, these 2 teams, they've butted heads a bunch of times, is this like the 9th time they've met in the last 3 years? For Stony Brook, they've gotten to the championship game now 4 of the last 5 seasons. That is also really hard to do, not just, not getting over the hump, but just to get to that point, watching on Monday night when, Iona, in 5 years, they got to the championship game 4 times. They won it twice. In this same period, Stony Brook, same thing, 4 in the last 5, but just haven't been able to pull it off yet. So, there is a little bit of pressure there, but I feel like This time is probably going to be a little bit different because of the looseness factor. You're going on the road. You're going to be able to be a little bit more loose in this kind of environment. You don't have all that pressure of everyone hounding you down this week because they're going to get up there probably Thursday night and worry about it on Saturday morning, and they'll be I feel like that'll probably help a little bit to get locked in.
We'll start with Ryan. What are some of the keys for both Albany and Stony Brook if they were to win the championship?
I'll start with Stony Brook, but I know Sam already brought it up. Being down 16 against Vermont. Steve Peichel told me, pretty much all year leading into this year, he wanted his team to face adversity, and they have. They had since the start of the year. They were down 16 to Columbia. They were down 16. And they were down 16 against Vermont, and they were down 16 against Washington. And each time they've been able to claw back into it, and it really has been different ways. Cam Mitchell going off against Washington, and having Chris Brearley, Brian Secunda really deliver in the first game of the year. It really has been different guys, and it's really been mixing and matching. Deshaun Thrower going for 18 points when he hasn't done that in a really long time, or at least at all this year. Maybe back in high school when he was dominating, winning Mr. Basketball in Michigan. Really coming into his own now. But I feel like the keys for this game is going to be, how does Stony Brook kind of work the ball and against Albany's 2-3 zone? They're going to throw a zone at him, and we're going to have to see what happens. That's why last time Scott King came in and, had a career night, as Will Brown said on Sunday, talking about how to prepare to play these guys again. And then for Albany, I feel like it's going to be, it's really just sticking to what has worked so far. Will Brown said that Peter Hooley is going to come off the bench and Dallas Anham is going to start. But, Peter Hooley is going to come off the bench pretty quickly. And, he's an impact player. And on Sunday, he was probably in his best form all season, coming back from his leave of absence. He scored a season-high 21. He really worked it off the bounce. And that's why I was really impressed with his, he got really back into that form. He was really able to dribble drive, work off, driving in the lane, getting the one-hand runners off the window. That's kind of his game, not just the shooting. So it's really coming into his form. I feel like that's going to help Albany a lot when this championship game's decided on Saturday.
Yeah, as Ryan kind of touched upon, obviously Stony Brook they've really been tight, kind of notoriously. That's been a trend for them, during it, basically the past half decade when they've struggled after great regular seasons. They played really loose against Vermont. I think there's something to be said for being the underdog. A big thing for Stony Brook is getting three guys, two guys in addition to Warney, and it has been kind of by committee all year long. You kind of know what you're going to get from Warney. You're not going to stop him in this league. A lot of teams don't sell out to even slow him down. They kind of go, we're going to try and stop the other guys. Warney is not a guy like a Coppenrath or a Jose Juan Barea in the sense that those guys in the America East tournament could go off for not just 30 but 40 and put a team on their back, do all the scoring. Warney's a monster, but he's a different kind of monster. He's a guy when he goes off, he gets 20, 24, 25. He's not a guy that you can just go, nothing else is working. He's going to get us 40, and he might win this game alone. You need a couple other guys, whether it's Rayshawn McGrew, Carson Purifoy, Deshaun Thrower. I'm not saying it needs to be any specific one, but they need two other guys to really step up. For Albany, I definitely think, creating off the dribble, some of the mid-range for them, because Warney's really stepped up as a shot blocker. Stony Brook likes to run a lot of guys at the perimeter, and so being able to create some stuff in the mid-range. Hooley's actually a really underrated jump shooter in the mid-range, so he could be really big. I think Evan Singletary is a key. He had a monster stretch during the America East slate, and he went a little bit quiet down the final stretch and entering the postseason. So it'll be interesting to see what you get out of him. I think he could be the deciding factor for Albany is which Evan Singletary comes up. And Will Brown has wanted him to be more selfish this year at times. He says he defers a little bit too much playing with guys like Hooley, playing with guys like Rowley. So I think his confidence in this game, he's never been in a game like this before. He's a first-year JUCO transfer. So, I think more than any other individual player, Evan Singletary might be the key to the game for both teams.
Yeah, we saw him hit some huge shots for about a 3-week stretch during America East play. It seems like he was hitting a game winner every night. So we touched a lot on the stars, and everyone knows Hooley had a great run in the tournament last year, another big game in the semifinals. But in your minds, who is that unsung difference maker? Who do you see, or what role player do you see stepping up in this game and making a difference? And we'll go to Sam to start on this.
Ooh, that's a tough one. I think Ray Saunders for Albany has been very good as of late, but he's been great defensively all season long. He's been very good scoring the ball. He's given them another option, which is big. But I think the way that he plays, Will Brown will use him in some different ways. They use zone, but how he does flustering Stony Brook's backcourt, you'll see him on Purifoy for a bit. Maybe you'll see him on Deshaun Thrower if he gets hot. I think Ray Saunders is one of those unsung guys. He's a glue guy. He's a great defender for Albany. So I think that he could be that kind of unsung guy.
And I guess I'll take the Stony Brook side of this one. I feel like Ray, and I don't know if we're talking starters and bench guys, but I feel like, Rayshawn McGrew, which Rayshawn McGrew kind of shows up, because, when he's playing against bigger guys, he tends to struggle. But, it's going to be his job on Saturday morning into afternoon to really match up against Sam Rowley. He's going to have to guard him on the block. He's going to have to guard him pretty much most of the time, unless he gets in foul trouble, and that means Tyrell Sturdivant's going to come in and play. So I think that's really going to be the key. But it's also going to be, when Stony Brook's playing their best basketball, they're probably missing a couple shots, but Rayshawn McGrew's coming in, grabbing those rebounds and cleaning up and getting putbacks. That's going to be what they need to really make sure that they're going to have a chance in this game.
Mm-hmm. Which coach's legacy would be affected more by winning this game?
Will Brown. I think that winning this is bigger for Peichel, which is a little caveat. But I think Peichel doesn't win it this year. He's still got next year with Warney and Purifoy as seniors. I think if Will Brown wins this, I don't think losing this game negatively affects Will Brown's legacy. But if Will Brown wins this game and he gets 5 NCAA tournament appearances, more than Jim Calhoun, more than anyone else in America East, conference history. I mean, that is huge. That is another level. That is hard to argue with a guy that took over as the interim coach back in 2002 because nobody else wanted the job when the entire coaching staff other than him walked out. And the guy who, has been on the hot seat a couple of times in Albany after getting them to 2 straight NCAA tournaments, that suddenly, they don't win a couple of years and there are murmurs about, he's the guy who can't get it done anymore. Do we move on? And for him to be on the verge of getting a 5th ring is really remarkable. And if he gets that 5th ring, that is really huge. That is something that is it just doesn't happen at this level very often. It's never happened in the America East, but it doesn't happen just at this level anywhere, going to 5 NCAA tournaments.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, building something like this, the amount of time that Will's put into it, it does make it, really special to, have this chance to even clinch this. Because you're right, most guys will probably move on. Most guys will find other jobs, but Will's been very comfortable where he's, at Albany right now, and he really has it going. And I guess I have to take the contrarian view that, this is the legacy of Steve Pikiell's not getting over the hump, even though I don't really agree with any of that kind of notion. But I mean, I personally think it's just, you get to this point, you're a coin toss away from going to the tournament, and it just seems like, the coin has landed on heads 4 times, or at least, 3 times, I guess, in the last 4 times. So, I think you got to live with whatever happens in this game. I still think, Steve's job's pretty safe, I would think, at this point. Yeah. So, when you're winning 20 games in, 4 straight years, I think your job's pretty safe. So, I think it's going to be, I guess it does matter, to get that NCAA tournament berth with these guys, because this is a very important group of guys. But, they're still one of the youngest teams in the country. I think they're the 2nd youngest team in the league, other than Binghamton.
And now we get to the moment we've all been waiting for, and we get to our predictions. And I'm pretty sure we're going to be opposite on this, and I think I can take a guess given how some of the conversation's gone. But I'm going to throw it to you, Ryan. You got the first pick.
All right. Well, you know what? When it really comes down to is I feel like Albany just matches up a lot better against Stony Brook, then really Stony Brook can really deliver. I feel like, 1 through 7, I feel like, Albany's got the advantage. I feel like, there aren't good enough matchups that Stony Brook can take advantage of, and, Albany does a lot of things that Stony Brook just has trouble doing. They have trouble defending guys who attack the basket, and they have trouble defending, teams threes, teams, small forwards, teams power forwards. Those are the matchups that I feel like Albany can exploit, and I feel like, the group Albany has, and I feel Evan Singletary really hurt him in that first meeting, and they were really focused in on him. You could definitely tell in that second meeting. They just focused in on him so much that they were struggling to find and cover shooters. They were running it. They ran at a countless amount of shooters when I watched the game, and they still had that corner three chance to tie the game or tie or go ahead, and that was with Scott King going crazy and beating the zone somehow. So I feel like Albany's the favorite. They're going to have a really live crowd, and I feel like they're going to make the adjustments. And Peter Hooley wasn't healthy the first time. He wasn't there the first time they played, and he wasn't healthy the second time they played. He was still getting his legs under him, and Wheeler Baker was sat for that game. Will Brown, I guess, sending a message to him. But I just feel like Albany just matches up so much better, and I just think they're the better team. And most of the time, I'll take the better team, but I know that we'll see what happens.
So Ryan threw me for a little bit of a loop there on that one. I thought he was maybe going to go another way. It's really interesting because people always say basketball is about momentum, and over the course of a 30, 31, however many game season, Albany is definitely I would say the better team. I don't think anyone would argue against that. It's interesting when it comes to momentum, though. On the one hand, you look at Albany was a corner three away from tying it in a game that they didn't play well. Peter Hooley was just coming back, and for Stony Brook, Scott King had his best game since his redshirt freshman year. He went off. On the other hand, Albany hasn't, to me, really been hitting on all cylinders going into the tournament and playing in the tournament. And you look at they were playing a Tanner Leisner-less UNH team, and they still could have lost that game. I mean, they won by 2. UNH had a chance to go for the tie or the win. They got it's interesting. It's real tough. I think over the course of a 30-game season, I think Albany is the better team. I think that Jameel Warney has a monster game, and I think that Stony Brook wins this one, and they finally go to the dance. I'm going to say it. I'm going to hear about it from Will Brown tomorrow. I'm going to hear about it from everyone. But I am going with Stony Brook. Me, the Stony Brook hater, is going with Stony Brook on Saturday.
I feel like your hand might have been forced there a little bit, Sam. So I'll be watching those Twitter mentions to One Bid Wonders as we get ready for this game. Well, I got to thank both of you guys, Sam, Ryan. This was a really great opportunity, and if you're an America East basketball fan, you got to follow these guys. Sam is at One Bid Wonders on Twitter. Go to the website, onebidwonders.com. For Ryan, he's at Ryan A. Restivo on Twitter. And nycbuckets.com is the website. So follow these guys as we get ready for the America East Championship. Thanks again, guys.